Hi everyone, welcome to Moon in Libra Tarot Study. This is video number 6 and we're looking at card number 5 today, which is the Hierophant. I think that's how you say it, but I'm not 100% sure. It's either Hierophant or Hierophant. So I've gone with Hierophant because it sounds like hierarchy, which is one of the key words for the Hierophant. So we're going to look at 3 different decks as usual. The first one I'm going to show you is the Truth Seekers Tarot. And this one shows a guy with 3 people in front of him. He's up high on his pedestal and he's lecturing or preaching or delivering a sermon of some sort. He's got, in the symbolism in this card, he's covering his heart, which to me represents kind of boundaries being put in place. You know, he'll teach you, he'll give you, information that he feels will help you on your path. But there are some things that, he needs to hold close to his heart that are just his own private pieces of information. So there's boundaries there. There's a definite boundary there between the teacher and his students. So the Hierophant always has, in the traditional cards, he has 2 pillars behind him. And he links into the 3 cards that came before him, which are the High Priestess, the Empress and the Emperor, in different ways. So I'll talk about them with each card that I show you. So with this card, I'm going to talk about how he links into the High Priestess. So the 2 pillars here in the Hierophant card are reminiscent of the 2 pillars in the High Priestess. And whereas in the High Priestess they represented duality, and the High Priestess represents kind of the veil between the material world and the spiritual world via going inside and seeking for your inner knowing. The Hierophant represents another, more like a bridge between the material world and the spiritual world, whereas he is the bridge for these people here. So these people look up to him to help them to connect to their own divinity. He's the enlightened one. He can help them to give them some knowledge that they're seeking to help them with their own spiritual growth. So whereas the High Priestess represents the veil going inside and connecting to your own inner knowledge, the Hierophant represents a bridge for you, a kind of outer bridge for somebody who's seeking knowledge or guidance. And he represents the teacher figure. So he represents an outer connection to the divine, whereas the High Priestess represents connecting to the divine by going inside. Okay, the next card I'm going to look at is from the Art of Love Tarot, and they've titled it The Teacher, and the key word on here is clarity. So in this card, I'm going to read a little bit from the book actually, because the depiction that they give you in this deck on this card is quite different to the traditional deck, which I'll go into a little bit further after I've looked at these cards. But I just found it interesting that each of the cards that I have for the same card, the Hierophant, gives such different energies out, really. So there's a few different ways that you can interpret this card. So this deck talks about when the student is ready, the teacher appears in a form that you will learn from. The answers you seek are finding you. And it says, the teacher asks you to focus on your values. What is most important to you? What is it that you do that no person or alarm clock has to motivate you to do? The teacher's ability resides within every one of us, and this gives you the tools to travel where she has already explored. So this deck depicts the teacher as a female person, for a start. And the meaning in this deck is saying that we've already got the answers inside us. So it's a reminder that all of the answers to whatever wisdom it is that you're seeking ultimately can be found within you. And yet the traditional meaning of this card is a teacher who is the bridge for you between the material world, between your physical body and your spiritual development. So the Hierophant traditionally is that link for you, for the student. But this card is talking about how all of the knowledge that you seek is already inside you. So in this deck, the teacher, the Hierophant, might be some knowledge that you find yourself, or that you guided to yourself, or a symbolic, abstract type of lesson that you are going to attract into your life yourself. So there's a slightly different meaning in this deck. This deck is very empowering. So it's talking about all of the lessons that you need to learn already being within you. And you just need the kind of external factors to guide you towards that remembering. And then we've got the third deck that I have. My third tarot deck is the Magical Nordic deck. I forgot what it was called for a second there. Yeah, this is from the Magical Nordic deck. And this card depicts, it talks about Thor. I don't know if this is supposed to be Thor. I don't think so. It says Thor was the god of thunder. His legendary hammer had the power to heal as well as harm. But it's talking about the Hierophant as a healer of hearts and a teacher of life. And he's wedding two people. So he's the religious leader. In this depiction, though, he's uniting two people together in marriage. What's the word? Knowledge. So the key word is knowledge. And I really liked this this write-up of the Hierophant in this book. It says, I'm looking at the wrong one, I'm looking at the Lovers, sorry. It says the Hierophant stands between two pillars. So we've got the pillars on each side. As a couple seeking his blessing, graciously bow down before him. A healer of hearts and teacher of life, he thrives on sharing his wisdom with others and seeks to unify rather than divide those around him. So I really liked that description of the Hierophant, because on studying the traditional meaning of it, I was getting quite a strict and stern vibe from the key words and stuff that I was picking up. So he represents things like conformity and the status quo and social convention and things like that, things that are quite stern and strict and, you know, conservative type energy. So I wasn't picking up on a very nice energy from that, but this deck just gave a fresh approach, I guess, where he's seeking to unify rather than divide those around him. So he's standing up as a kind of an authority figure, but not like the Emperor, who's an authority figure in terms of the law or the legal system, things like that. This is more a religious social structure. So he would be at the top of the religious hierarchy. So he would be a priest. Somebody who is completely in tune with their own belief system, somebody whose faith is unshakable as well. So there is actually a really positive meaning to this card, to the Hierophant. I was going to talk about the connection of the Hierophant to the Empress as well. So the connection of the Hierophant to the Empress card comes with their connection via the sign of Taurus. Taurus is the zodiac sign, the earthy zodiac sign, which is depicted by the bull. So the Hierophant is very stubborn. There's a stubborn energy and that's a very Taurian trait, the stubbornness and the fixity, rigidity, and somebody who's quite bullish in there, especially with the Hierophant energy. This is somebody who's bullish in their belief systems, completely rigid in their belief systems. They, you know, they stand completely firm in their faith. But there's also a connection to the Taurian energy in terms of a love of luxury and beauty. Taurus is linked to Venus, which is how it connects to the Empress, because the astrological association of the Empress is Venus. So these are linked in that way, with a love of beauty, with a love of luxury as well. If you think of the priest, you know, they're not hard up. They're surrounded by beautiful religious artifacts, and you know, they're not lacking in terms of financial security. So there's that sort of energy connected to the Hierophant as well. And then we have the connection to the Emperor, in that obviously they're male figures. They bring the energy of stability and a strength, but in different ways. The structure that they both bring, you know, that's how these two cards are connected. So the Hierophant is connected to the last three cards that came towards him, and he's kind of like bringing it full circle before we move on to the more external energies of the Lovers and you know, all the cards that come next. So some more keywords that I've written here. So he represents conformity, social norms, conforming to the status quo, being bound by tradition or orthodoxy. It could be a sign that you need to examine your belief system, or that you need to hold fast to your beliefs. It could also represent your search for a teacher. Maybe you're searching for a mentor or a teacher. This card could be a sign that person is there, waiting to connect with you. It could also represent social groups, and kind of more like in a kind of political sense. So, you know, joining together in a group with a cause, and, you know, being devoted to that cause and a great loyalty to that cause. So there's another way to interpret that card. It could also mean that it's bringing you a warning against stubbornness and against being really, you know, unshakable and stuck in your ways. It could be a warning that there's somebody a bit unconventional or orthodox or unorthodox, unconventional and unorthodox who's coming into your life. Or it could be that, you know, the energies that are around you, this is if it's reversed, by the way, it represents unconventionality and unorthodox energy. Maybe somebody coming in wanting to instigate change and rebellion, that sort of energy, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And again, links into the social groups and, you know, knowing your place within these social groups and having a cause to fight for. So it does hold kind of contradicting energy for me, because there's the conventional side of it, but then there's also the, you know, the grouping, coming together in a group kind of energy. So there's quite a lot of different ways to interpret this card. There's a lot of different things going on in it. This video is a lot longer than the other ones that I've done, because there's just so much to say with the Hierophant. There's so many different interpretations of it. So it would very much depend on the other cards that you pulled out as to how you would read that card, and the same goes for all of the cards really. You read them with the general interpretation in mind, but in relation to the other cards that are coming out and are surrounding it and influencing it. So there's the Hierophant. I'll be back tomorrow probably with the Lovers. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Take care. Bye.